Hi drummers, hope you're well. Right, shout out to channel member Richard, who asked a while ago now, sorry for the delay Richard, about counting into a song and starting off on the beat. Sure man, so just coming at it from a very basic point of view, 1, 2, 3, 4. By default, unless there's any good reason not to, 1, 2, 3, 4. I click the sticks together and I shout the numbers as well, honestly, especially on stage. If you're in a gig context, be as loud as you like shouting the numbers. The problem with just clicking is if, you know, the guitarist, let's face it, it's going to be you guitarist, you're talking to somebody, you're distracted. What if you miss the first click? Do you know what I mean? I shout the numbers as loud as I possibly can, especially on stage. Musicians are distracted. The bass player will be fiddling with his amp. Something will be not working properly. Something will be wrong with it. The guitarist will be talking to somebody, like the singer, God knows a singer will be away in their own world. So I love you all, by the way, guitarists, singers, bass players, but shout the numbers at them, make it super clear. But I think that's one great way right from the start to perhaps appear as somebody who's a solid pair of hands. Perhaps, you know, somebody you'd want to give it the drum gig to. Right, what was great was he counted every tune, or he or she counted every tune, and it was like 1, 2, 3, 4. We knew where we were. So by default, assuming everybody's in on beat 1, we'd go 1, 2, 3, 4. There might be something on the drums, quite often isn't there, a little fill, which just like leads into the groove. If it's very short like that, if it's beat 4, I wouldn't think anything more of it. I'd just go 1, 2, 3. If there's some kind of intro on drums before the first beat, this comes down to a little bit of a judgment call, but there'd definitely be a point as it got more elaborate or a bit more involved, like the drum intro, I would definitely talk to the other musicians, particularly the people most involved, typically bass player, guitarist, keyboard player, I'd just talk it through. Like I did a couple of gigs recently, like depping for another band, and I had this exact experience. We basically went through with the bass player through this set list, and we said, right, any other funny little moments, any other little starts or stops that we need to know about. And there was a couple of moments at starts where it's like, actually there was one song where I remember it went, it actually started by going 1, 2, 3, 4. That was the start on the drums only, and then the rest of the band came in. And on the recording, the band had sent me, the first one had been cut off. So it sounded to me like it went 1, 2, 3, 4. So I discussed it with them. They said, oh, no, sorry, that should have been 1, 2, 3, 4. So I said, okay, what I'll do is I'll count in 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when the beginning of the song is, you know, obvious or next to obvious, just 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're in. If there's any little, you know, tiny glimpse of sunlight of confusion, potential confusion, my rule is you discuss it. You quickly say before, obviously if you're in rehearsal, great, but if you've gone straight to the gig, talk to the other musicians. I'll start at this tune, just want to be super certain, like we know what's going on here, and you just basically say what you're going to do. Often people will say, oh, I'm not sure, like, you know, do what you think. At that point, I think it's time, personally, I feel like you'd have to be decisive at that point and say, right, I will do this. If that's not okay, let me know. But otherwise, that's how I'm going to do it. There might be other fills, like, for example, it might go that kind of thing. That one starts on beat 3, doesn't it? So I would definitely, at that point, I'd probably say, oh, by the way, I'm going to count 1, 2, and the drum fill will be 3, 4, and then we'll all be in. Like, make sure the people who are involved understand that. So just like talk them through really quickly. By the way, at the start of this particular tune, hope this is cool. I'm going to go 1, 2. And I'd probably say, look, I'm going to yell 1, 2, so you know exactly where we are with that. And then other things, I'd say if the tempo is quicker, again, this comes down to a sort of judgment call really, but if the tempo is quicker, I sometimes will do 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if it's quite quick, if it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the 1, 2, 3, 4 can whiz by very quick. And even if say that you're the bass player, you're the guitarist, even if like you hear the 1, 2, 3, 4, it might be not enough warning if you're just fiddling with something or your fingers aren't in the right place. If the tempo is really lively, I would do 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, before anyone says it, I know that 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 is a bit weird because the 2's in the wrong place, isn't it? The first time around, 1, 2, that's actually on the 3, but whatever. That's the industry sort of standard, so don't worry about it. Just do it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. If the tempo is quicker, I would do that. Again, probably most of the time, that might be one that I've just mentioned to everybody personally beforehand. By the way, this song's real quick, so I'll go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, just to be super clear. It just gives everybody a bit more warning, doesn't it, what's coming up. There's other things as well, aren't there? Like if it could be in compound time, right? So say that you're in 6/8, or say that you're in 12/8 with 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, like a groove like this. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I always count in 4 if at all possible. So I mean that's, for example, that is in 12/8. So technically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I always count in 4 if at all possible. I always think keep it as simple as you possibly can. That might be one where you would say beforehand, might not, depends, but you might say ahead of time, look, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Very often, if it's that kind of feel, if it's a triplety 12/8 feel, when I click, I'll actually go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I click the ones on the beat, the dotted quarter note there, nice and strong, and then I'll actually play the 2 in between each time, the triplet, if you like, more softly on the stick click. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. On more unusual time signatures, if it's a 5 or a 7, obviously state the numbers and obviously say ahead of time what's going to happen. If the feel is swung, if you're playing a shuffle, 1 and 2 I tend to include that swung and in the count. So you might go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and if it's faster, again I might go 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and if it's faster, 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so if it's swung, I personally include the and just to kind of set the feel in motion, like create the mood, create the vibe a little bit before you've even started playing. Just a sort of reminder to yourself and to everybody else, this is the feel of this one. That's a good thing to do with accounting, I always think. But generally, shout, be super clear about the numbers. I personally click sticks and say the numbers as loudly as possible. If there's even the slightest, you sense even the slightest possibility, and there's usually plenty with musicians, for any confusion, talk about it first if you possibly can. Especially if the drums lead in, or if there's an unusual number of beats, or if it's compound time or something like that. Just sort of talk about it ahead of time as much as you can. On some songs where the drums don't start, I really like counting the guitarist in personally. Like I always sort of offer to do that. A really good example of this is Sex on Fire by Kings of Leon. People ask about the intro quite a lot. It actually isn't complicated at all. There's something about the way the guy plays it on the original, and nothing against him, it's great, but it's just something about it which even now, even though I've heard it a ton of times and played it a ton of times, catches my ear sometimes. I just sort of hear that in the wrong place. The first big guitar strum that he does is on the and of beat 4, so it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, ba da 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 da, 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. There's something about that strum on the and of beat 4. If you hear that in the wrong place, that can really throw you out, can't it? So when a guitar riff starts like that, another good example is Take It Easy by Eagles, which actually starts in the same way, doesn't it? With a big guitar strum on the, like an upstroke on the and of beat 4. I would always offer to count them in at that point. So I'll say to them, look, I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, ba da da da, like, and then you'll be up and running. You might even keep time on a hi-hat or click your sticks during the guitar, through the guitar intro. That basically boils down to how much you trust your guitarist. Some guitarists are just brilliant, and luckily for me, lots of guitarists I work with are just amazing, and there's just no question about where the beat is. They just sound great, and you 100% trust them to start the song, and it will just be great. Sometimes you just get the sense that maybe it would be a good idea to count in, just to be super clear, like where we're at with it. If the drums don't start, I'm a big fan of counting everything in, just from the point of view of like, then I'm always 100% sure where we're at with it. Do you know what I mean? I was never no chance that I would mishear anything. Famously, that intro to Start Me Up by the Rolling Stones, isn't there? Which I did a video about a while ago where, I don't know if this is true or not, the story goes Charlie Watts misheard where beat 1 was momentarily there, and hence the interesting drum intro, which actually worked out brilliantly because I really love that intro. But that's the story goes that he might have misheard that just for a second or two, and then sort of corrected himself, and that stayed in the mix, in the final mix. So that's what I'll do. Yeah, to recap, shout the numbers, always shout the numbers, make it super clear where you're at, click your sticks at the same time. Any unusual business, drum fill leads in, something else happens, talk about it. I would always, in my head, just work out a plan, how it's going to happen, and say, I'm planning to do this. Is that cool with everybody? Rather than say, oh, what should I do? Because then, I find often in bands, the guitarist will have one idea, the bass player will have another idea, and he'll say, well, I'll do it in this other band, and we do it like this. I always just try and be decisive in the name of being as time efficient as possible and minimizing the risk of any confusion. I always just say clearly, I'm going to do this. Is this okay? And then not wanting to come across as bossy, but also sometimes people dig that. People just like that. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Obviously, if you're depping with a band and they have a certain way of doing it, I'm not saying you don't listen to them. If they say like we do it like this, then do it like that. Cool. But if there's uncertainty, I always just think be the one you're doing it. So as a drummer, be the person who decides. But there are of course bands where the drummer doesn't count it in, and that's fine as well. Especially like orchestras and stuff like that. I used to do a lot of musical theatre, of course, when you've got a musical director counting in. Fair enough, you have to defer to that. But assuming the drums count in, be decisive, say how you're going to do it. As long as you're decisive and commit to it, it almost always works. I'm not saying it's worked every time for me, but almost always I think those things work. So shout out to Richard, great question, a little bit different today. I love those sort of questions, so keep them coming. I noticed you did ask one or two other questions as well, Richard, so I'll deal with those shortly. I thought it made sense to make this its own video. And thanks for watching as always, really appreciate it. Please like, share and subscribe. Any questions about that or anything else, please give us a shout. If you've enjoyed these videos, found them helpful, useful, and you're in a position to and would like to, please consider supporting this channel via my Buy Me a Coffee support page. You can find that linked above or below, depending where you're watching this, or you could become a channel member like Richard. You can support this channel on an ongoing basis, which I massively appreciate, and get a whole load of stuff in return, including a customized, personalized to you practice plan, which I'll update for you as often as you like as you progress. You can send me your practice videos, ask questions. I'll do video responses and reply to you. You can have a complimentary Zoom or face-to-face session at first where we'll work out exactly what that practice plan is going to be. You can have access to, if you want them, future Zoom or face-to-face sessions from there, and a whole load of other features, breakdowns of the drum covers that I put up, notation and practice alongs for the tutorial type of videos. And again, I'll just be on hand to support you with your drumming as you go along. If that sounds like it would be of interest and you're in a position to do that, would like to, like I say, details above or below where it says buy me a coffee / become a channel member here. Thanks a million to all the coffee buyers and channel members who support this channel. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. On YouTube, by the way, you might have noticed for the last few months, I would say at least the last 6 months or so, there hasn't been a single advert. So I turned off the ads on all the new videos that I've been posting for the last few months. I forget exactly when, and all of that is because of the amazing support this channel has received. So thanks to the amazing channel members and coffee buyers in particular that I've been able to run the YouTube videos without any adverts on there. I get, especially on the longer videos, how annoying that could be, like the adverts interrupting. So if you've noticed that or appreciated that, then that's the reason why. Thanks a million to all the amazing supporters of this channel who've made that happen. Thanks for watching as always. Shout out to Richard and see you soon. 1, 2, 3.